Okay, I've been procrastinating. I'm not sure this is a word, but I'm sure you understand. So what I'm going to be talking about today is how I deal with my procrastination. So hello everyone, welcome or welcome back to my very small place on the internet where I talk about my knitting life. My name is Isabelle, I am in France, and today I'm gonna be talking about something that may happen to you. It doesn't happen very often to me, but I was experiencing sort of a knitting fatigue, but I don't think I was tired of knitting. I guess I was just tired of the world, and how I did cope with that and how I managed to continue knitting so that I have something to talk about today. So let's talk about what I'm wearing, because here in France today it's cold. We had snow scheduled, but the warmer front came up to the area where I live. So we just have rain, but rain with just below freezing temperatures, very cold. And I was teaching all morning, this morning, from 8 to noon in a very, very, very cold room. And my mistake, yesterday we had some sun, so I was wearing my pathway shawl that is here, I made with yarn from Atelier Paulin. It's by Mayukepi from her contrast book. And I love it because the cables are reversible. So it's very easy to wear. It's very warm. It keeps me very warm. And yesterday I was warm inside thanks to the sun, because of the sun. And this morning it was dark when I left. It was 7 o'clock in the morning. And I thought, well, yesterday I was too warm and it's bulky under my coat and I have a backpack, and with that it's... So I'm just not gonna take it with me. What a mistake. What a mistake. I've been freezing cold, even though I think it's called a Norwegian style sweater or Norwegian type sweater. Scandinavian type sweater that I knit with Dererum Natura Serrano. So the light brownish gray is salt and pepper, poivre et sel. The dark brown is fusain, so that's kind of a charcoal. The type of charcoal you can draw with. And the white part is a very old camel type of yarn that is peeling like crazy, but you know, within the color work, it doesn't seem to be peeling. So this sweater is warm. I have underneath another layer that is warm. I have my trusty sherbet bandana with Romney yarn from Atelier Paulin too. So I thought, well, that's just enough. That's just enough. I'm gonna be good. That's just enough. What a mistake. It was not enough. I was freezing cold and I did not want to keep my coat on. Students had their coat on in the room. I did not want to do that because I have a big down puffy jacket that is waterproof on top and 3 layers of things. You can remove one layer, the down layer, and you have just a very waterproof coat that is quite thin and not warm. But I did not want to put it on. What a mistake. I should have. And I've been freezing cold since this morning. And when I came back home, it's quite late. It took me a couple hours. I had to be working. I had an appointment with a colleague for something, so she is in the north of France. So we talked over Zoom for an hour and a half. I could not make myself warm any longer, so I'm drinking some tea. Right after I finish recording, you know what I'm going to be doing? A very warm and hot shower, a meal, a dinner, and go to bed. Okay, so I'm going to try to make a shorter video today. Never say never say never. But last video, I was very happy to film it. It took a long time to film. It took a awful long time to edit. People say it's about 3 or 4 times the time to edit the time of the video. So it was a very long video to edit, and to make the description box as useful as possible, I link everything down below, everything that I'm talking about, unless I forget, but I think I'm quite thorough in the description box, and it's for you to be able to go to the patterns or to the things or websites and stuff like that I'm talking about. And this takes a very long time to make as I'm editing the video. This is also why I take a long time to edit the videos. Anyway, so let's try to make this one a bit shorter. So as I have said, I've been procrastinating. By that I mean I had a very hard time to pick up my knits. And you won't see the sorrel sweater because it's at the same stage you last saw it. While I have to cast on for the sleeves. And you won't see my dusking because once again it's at the same stage. One sleeve is done and I have to cast on and make the other sleeve. It's not difficult, but it's too difficult into my head to manage, to beyond managing for the sorrel. I have to calculate and what could be very fun and what was very fun when I was knitting the body of the sorrel, even though I had to rip out and make decisions and stuff like that and start again. It was quite funny to weigh out and calculate how long do I go, how much do I need for the sleeves, and just thinking of it makes me tired. So I did not knit on the sorrel. I did not knit on the dusking either, because going down to the last part where I have just one strand of mohair just makes me tired just thinking of it too, because I don't know what I'm going to be doing once I'm there. Do I go with 3 or 4 needles to knit that part and have a ladder? Do I do some kind of magic loop or traveling magic loop? But then it's very difficult to go from one needle to the other. The first stitch is very tight and I take as much time to get to the first stitch than to get to the rest of the stitch on the stitches on the needle. So these 2 projects just make me tired just by thinking of them. So what I did, and I talked about that in my latest video about my knitting adventures. I casted on an easy scarf, easy with bubbles. And so I casted on that scarf and I've been knitting on that scarf. Why? Because it's a 4 rows pattern. Easy to remember. I have stitch markers that allow me not to make mistakes without noticing at least the next row. And I haven't been making any mistakes. So it's a very easy pattern to remember, to execute. And this is all I was needing. No thinking. And I've casted on a second project I've been talking about too, and I've been working on these 2 ones because these 2 projects require no thinking from me. And I guess I said procrastinating because that's the part where I did some kind of procrastination. I could not procrastinate for work or for other things, so I did procrastinate on my craft, on my knitting, on my personal time. And I spent several days without knitting. And I think what happens is that the combination of dark and bad weather, you know, weather is weather. We can't do anything about that. And I have to take out my lamp that is sun-like type of rays, and that I usually eat in front of my lamp in the morning for 20 minutes during my breakfast. and you get enough light to kind of counterbalance the seasonal depression. I'm not sure. I was in kind of a depressed state, but no light outside. My Normandy, except for 1 or 2 days, like yesterday, where there was a lot of sun, very dry, no clouds, very beautiful weather. All the other days for several months now have been gray, cold, rainy. We had snow and very cold, very rainy, very damp. You know, that kind of cold damp that gets too inside of your bones. So maybe the weather. The other thing I think is more that it's because during the end of the year, I had my 3 kids with me. I had my mother. I did a lot of driving. I went to take her back, and I went to my in-laws, whom I love. I love them. I really do. And we had a good time. And then I went back home, and my youngest son was still there for a few days. So I was not alone. And it's not being alone that I think kind of got me or got onto me. It's not having all the agitation around me. And when all of these agitation stopped, I was very happy because I was thinking, we have more knitting time and things like that, more time for myself. I can decide what I do, when I do, whatever. I think it got me by surprise that I was feeling very sad that everyone was back home, that my kids were back home, and I was not kissing them in the morning and kissing them goodnight. I do miss kissing them in the morning and kissing them goodnight. And I remember when I was this summer at my son in Toulouse for a couple nights, I would kiss him goodnight, and he was very happy I would kiss him goodnight, like when they were kids, even though they are adults. And I kissed them good morning. And I miss that. I think I miss that. And this type of feeling got deep inside of me, and I collapsed. I collapsed. And an obvious thing to materialize that was to feel overwhelmed with yarn management or knitting management and thinking of things. It was even too much. So what did I do? I started easy projects. So let's go to my work in progress, and of course I have no finished objects. Okay, take 2. I did not hit the record button. So my first work in progress I am going to be talking about today is the Olympe scarf. Olympe is by Camille Delahaye. She's Les Aiguilles de Camille, and the pattern is available both in English and in French. I chose an easy and fun pattern. Easy, there are bubbles, many bubbles. I did calculate how many bubbles I've knit so far. I've knit so far 416 bubbles. Yeah. And the thing that is easy about this pattern, you work 1 row, the bubble row, and it's not the regular bubbles where you knit back and forth and stuff. No, you knit several times in the same stitch, you pass over the different loops, and that makes what she calls a faux bubble, and it's bubble enough to me. So you work 1 row, and the other 3 rows, so it's a 4-row repeat, are very easy, knits and purls, and I can knit without watching my hands. I have stitch markers, I know how many stitches are in between, what I have to be doing. So it's an easy pattern to me. If you don't like bubbles, don't look don't cast on that pattern. And so far I'm not going with the dimension of a scarf because I'm knitting with a bigger yarn. I'm using cashmere, my cashmere merino fingering weight yarn held double, the one I brought back from Atelier Pure Laine. So it's 50% cashmere, 50% merino. Holding double, I think I have 4mm needles. And it's wider than what she shows. And I'm going to be going a bit longer than what she recommends. So there is a pointy end. You start by increasing on one side. Once you have reached that many repeats, you knit straight, and I'm knitting straight, and I still have about maybe 20 rows. I want to be making bubbles, maybe a bit more, and then I'll start decreasing again. I am going to take as an inspiration for the dimension the Silata scarf that I knit for my eldest son Samuel. I also knit one for Theo in 2021, for Christmas 2021. And Samuel gave it back to me because it's too long for him. Theo is happy with what the scarf is, happy with the scarf length. For Samuel, as I've said, it's been raining a lot, and he had a down jacket that also is waterproof, but it's a shorter one, and when he wears the scarf, it goes, the pointy ends go below his jacket, because if he makes more rounds, it's too heavy in front of him. And the problem is, as it's raining a lot, the ends get damp. So he asked me to remove part of it. So the Silata scarf, it's now, I think it's Silène, it's Marie-Amélie design in her book Ensemble. And it's knit sideways. You go sideways, you increase at one side. Once you have the regular width, you increase at one side and you decrease at the other one, so that you knit sideways. And this pattern has this kind of ridges that reminds me of the kind of ridges you can see on the seaside, on the sand when the sea has gone away. And so I'm going to be measuring or using this as a template for my own scarf. So I have removed whatever he was asking for. I have not weaved in my ends in. My only one end in, and I will wash it for him. I did not block them, I just washed them after knitting, because he hasn't washed it at all in 2 years. And this is the Polaire by Fonty in this grey, and Theo has kind of a blue one, and he's asked for a hat to go with his own scarf. And you see it hasn't peeled at all. He's been wearing it constantly, not taking care of it. It's a very good yarn. So it's merino or wool and alpaca. So you can see maybe the little fluff, the little alpaca fluff. The scarf, the yarn has held for 2 years without taking care of it, without washing it. But I had told him, if you want to wash it, give it to me and I'll do it for you. But you know, stored away, I'm not sure how. Very good yarn, a very good piece. So I'm going to be using that as a sample, as a template for my own Olympe, for the length of my own Olympe. It's going to be a fun scarf to wear. I think the bubbles give much dimension to this very simple color. And as you can see, I think the cashmere has a very good stitch definition. Maybe it's because it's held double, I'm not sure. But what I'm going to be doing after I finish knitting on the scarf, so I think I have maybe another 1/8 of the scarf to be knitting. I kind of calculated that the other day. I'm going to be making another of these little bandanas. It's Chobet bandana by Lamb & Kid, but I'm not knitting at the right gauge. I just got inspiration for the increases and I had that many grams of yarn, so I knit halfway through my yarn and then I decreased. So I'm gonna be making another one with the cashmere held single, because I have to say, I wear this scarf every day. And so I'm gonna be making another one. And if I want to make one in cashmere, it's not because I want that scarf it's in cashmere. It's because I want to use it as a gauge swatch. Because what I saw is that the stitch definition is so good, in my opinion. I want to be making a sweater with the yarn held single with a very lacy yoke. So I had bought long time ago, several patterns by Sari Nordland when she was having a birthday sale, and it was in 2022, I think. So I have several of her patterns that have beautiful lacy yokes and lacy designs. So I will swatch with a little bandana in stockinette held single. So this is going to be my swatch. And I will see which pattern matches my swatch, or with which pattern I can arrange the best according to my swatch. So I have the Rococo pullover, I have Couture and Couture Tee, the Couture sweater and the Couture Tee, Poetria, Celeste Tee, Poet, so Poet and Poetria, and Paz, which is free, I think. I will check for that, but I think Paz is free. So you see, lots of pattern sitting in my library. And I think when I was knitting on the scarf, I thought that using the cashmere for one of her lacy yokes patterns would be a good idea, because I think the stitch definition will be good. So yes, I want to finish that. I have motivation. I want to finish that, knit another scarf as a swatch, and then I will dive into a very lacy yoke sweater. Top. Okay, so that's good for Olympe. Olympe? I'm not sure how you pronounce that in English. I tested on the computer, on YouTube, how you pronounce that, but I'm not quite sure I have the right pronunciation. Anyway, you saw it written. The second work in progress I'm working on is the Huldra vest by Miss Evil Knit. And what I like about this pattern, and I'm discovering I knew that. I had been knitting without a real pattern in the past for several times, a lot of projects. And I'm rediscovering I like knitting without a formal pattern to follow. And the Miss Evil Knit Huldra vest, there are several YouTube videos, I think there are 4 of them, where she explains all of the process. She shows you what the choices she's made. And there is really one video that was of some interest to me, and I did take notes, because the other one it was of some interest. I'm not saying that it was not interesting, but for knitting the vest itself. The first one is where the idea of the vest comes from. Another one is about how to knit the hood. And the fourth one, I'm not sure I recall what it was about. Oh yeah, how to make the pocket. But I'm not knitting a hood with the vest, and I'm not knitting pockets. And I'm even gonna be knitting something very different, I think, from what she's suggesting in her video. We talked about that vest with 2 of you, and one of you in private messages. The other person was Caroline or Caroline, and you have the discussions in the discussion we had down below the latest video. So the Huldra vest, I'm knitting with knitted and held double. Caroline gave me the knitted yarn, and she had already caked. I think I have 2 or 3 balls. That's the second or third ball I'm using. She had already caked up the yarn double, and I'm completely away from Miss Evil Knit's recommendations, even though I'm quite following the same idea. So the yarn, I'm not gonna pronounce the yarn name, the Knitted colorway. I'm gonna write it here. It's a very light pink with some parts of the pink that have some deeper colors. You may not be able to see it. The overall, you see this one is creamy white. This one is pink, pinker, a baby pink. Let's say a baby pink. And so you start with an I-cord. I made a 4 stitches I-cord, and she says, make the I-cord for the width of your shoulders. So I took my Hemsworth vest by Isabel Kramer, and I kind of looked how the width of the vest was, and I sort of managed to cast on stitches so that I can have 2 patterns, which are not the ones that Miss Evil Knit had chosen for her own vest, and that I can knit the border at the same time. So I'm knitting the border the way she recommends. What she recommends doing is doing 1 by 1 rib, and I slip the pearls with the yarn held in front. I guess you can slip also the knits with the yarn held in back. I guess it would make the same thing, but that means that every pearl, every other row, the pearls are slipped, and every other row, the knits are knit. That makes more of a woven type of finish, and this side will be stiffer and a bit thicker than the rest of the vest. I chose 2 patterns that I love. One pattern, and I called it seed stitch. Most stitch in my previous video is seed stitch. So it's knit 1, purl 1, and you change the knits and purl on the next row. So seed stitch on either side, and I love the woven effect of seed stitches. And the 1 by 2 ribbing pattern, where the ribs here are made by slipping all the knit stitch with the yarn held in back on the front, and they are purled, of course, in the back. And here the pearls are pearls, and on the reverse side the knits are knitted. So for now I have made the back. So why did I stop here? Because that was at the end of a ball. That's the only reason. I'm above the point where I should start to increase if I want to join in the round. So I casted on the stitches for the front. I did not knit the border at the same time. I'm not sure, I did not watch her video to see how she was doing, if she had casted on more stitches to knit the I-cord as she was making the front. I did not watch it again, so I just increased, and I have to think about something to close that nicely. I think I'm going to make an I-cord. So I made short rows to shape the shoulders, because I think the I-cord is going to be sitting more in the back. So I shaped the shoulders on the front side with short rows in pattern. It's not difficult. And then I increased also in pattern to go with the central motif. And I added 3 stitches to have a central part, because I did not think of it when I was knitting on the back. And there was an even number of ribs, so I made it odd so that there is one that is just in the middle. So I don't think I'm going to do one by one ribs, because I think I'm going to just finish with an I-cord. I'm not going to knit the hood with the vest. I think I'm going to knit the hood by itself with other Nutiden. And as I said in my last video, knitting Nutiden double is a whole different experience from knitting it single. And what I was thinking at the beginning was leaving the sides open of the vest. So I need to knit a little bit more and maybe shape underarm, maybe a couple stitches on either side, and see how it goes. If I do join and knit in the round and knit a regular vest, or if I leave each side open. And that was my original idea. And I have to say, when people were saying, you know, that Nutiden yarn was calling for this or that, I was thinking it was not something too serious. But I think this vest is calling for remaining open. I'm sorry, I have on my cable, and it's a small cable, so the stitches are a bit going inside. But I think this vest wants to remain open on the side, and I will either place a ribbon on the side if I want to make it, to close it a bit. I'll have to see after I've knit everything. So maybe reinforce one hole, force a hole in the side and reinforce it with crochet hook or something, and then attach a blush, a pink blush ribbon, or knit an I-cord to be able to attach it on the side, on the sides. Because I had seen there are many people who have vest patterns that are open on the sides, but you can still close it with either a little bit of knitting and some kind of a button, or a longer ribbon that you knit an I-cord, or that longer knitting portion that you can attach on the side and make some kind of nice loops. So I'm not sure what I'll do, but I almost completely decided to leave it open on the side. So continue knitting back and forth down to the moment that I think I'm happy with the length, and cast off. I think I'm gonna be using an I-cord cast off. I have to watch the video again to see which kind of cast off she's used on her own vest, and maybe the cast off will decide on how I'm gonna finish the front. If I do a 1x1 rib or some kind of ribbing, or maybe the same ribbing as here, I probably do the same all around. If I use an I-cord to finish the bottom of the vest, I'll place an I-cord in front of the opening. The head opening is fine, I can fit my head through, so if I make an I-cord to close it, I should knit a very loose I-cord, because the I-cord on the back is not that stretchy. It is a bit stretchy. You see, I can pull on it. It's a bit stretchy, but not too much. What I love with this yarn is unexpected, the pink color. And the same way I love the fleur shawl that I knit with Nutiden single, I love this blush pink color, very, very light. It's not even blush. It's barely pink. And I love this color, and I love the comfort of knitting with Nutiden held double. I had never experienced that. It is one way for me to seek comfort into my knitting and take me out of my procrastinating. So okay, 2 work in progress. All the other ones are just waiting for my attention and to be out of this kind of sluggy state of mind where everything looks difficult. I usually, when I end the video, thank you for being here with me and wishing joy and happiness and everything. I would like to thank you also for being here in this community that makes me want to film one video per week, even though tonight it's dark. It's dark. I'm tired. I'm not cold any longer, but I'm very tired. I'm hungry. I just want to go under the shower, eat something and go to bed, even though it's going to be very early. And setting up my video recording, the lights and the camera and the microphone and everything, it was difficult. I had to push myself. And in French we say, take myself by the hand. I guess you understand what I mean. I had to push myself into doing this. And now that I have finished the recording, I feel very happy and refreshed. And my mind has opened. And I'm very happy I've been talking about these two projects to you. Will it make any difference to you? I'm not sure, but it does make a big difference to me. And when I thank you for being here with me, it's also for that type of reason. Of course, I thank you for watching the video, for liking and for doing all the YouTube goodness. And I do hope that your knitting brings you joy and happiness, because in my case right now, it was very difficult for me to find joy and happiness into my knitting. And setting up the recording after a long day at work, after a cold day, after a freezing cold day, brought me much joy and happiness. And I know our world is head over heels for now, right now, and it's been that way for a very long time, and sometimes it's very difficult to go and push ourselves, take ourselves by the hand to do things. And I thank you, because today I've been doing this, recording this video for you, and it brought me much joy and happiness. So in the end, I thank you a lot for being here with me, and I will see you next time.